I would like to say that this is how it all started, but unfortunately it was not that easy. Unfortunately, people's toilet history was even worse. 76% of people who close the door and are alone in the restroom are busy on the phone. People go to the toilet 6 or 8 times a day. The time spent in the restroom varies between 16 minutes and 47 minutes. The important point in all this is that you can be alone in the toilet. Because until 800 years ago, going to the toilet was a communal activity. So how did man manage the journey from defecating in nature to stealing the $5 million gold toilet at Blenheim Palace in England? Before I start, I have to tell you that if you see these two together in a hotel in Europe, please do not confuse their use. I will explain at the end of the video. If you travel back in history, the first thing you would say, yes, this looks like a toilet, was used 5,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. But they had not yet discovered the luxury of having a toilet in the house. Sadly, going to the toilet was a social activity. It was a cultural activity to meet and talk and catch up on the latest news. Archaeological excavations confirm the existence of sit-down toilets in Egypt as early as 2100 BC. The first sewage system in history was found in the city of Mohenjo-Daro, the important center of the Indus civilization that flourished in the second half of the 3rd millennium BC. This system discharged wastewater from the houses and streets of the city through brick-built channels to the outskirts of the city. It was a highly sophisticated feat of engineering and played an important role for public health in the city. After Mohenjo-Daro, sewage systems began to be built in Mesopotamia and Egypt. If we are looking for a more modern sewage system, then we have to go back to ancient Rome. The first sewage system in ancient Rome was the Cloaca Maxima, built in the 6th century BC by the Roman king Lucius Tarquinius Priscus. He had developed an underground sewage system. No longer did the waste go through people, but underground to the Tiber River. The Cloaca Maxima is a 5-meter wide and 6-meter deep canal that connects to the Tiber River that runs through the city. This canal drained the city's rainwater and sewage waste. And how did the waste get here? I mean, what were Roman toilets like? In Rome, the baths and toilets were quite advanced. There were holes in the floor and water flowed underneath. When Romans traveled, they built the toilets for their own use. The holes were of the keyhole type, so that liquid and solid wastes were separated at the source, and disposal was easier. Toilet paper in Rome was replaced with sticks wrapped in old cloths or leaves. In ancient Rome, toilets were usually found in homes and public restrooms. Domestic toilets were usually in the form of seats, in the form of a chair with a hole in the center, or simple clay pots. After use, the bowl was emptied into a common cesspit or directly out the window into the street. At dinner parties in Rome, it was common for slaves to bring silver urine containers, which royalty would use while continuing to eat. It was also popular in various societies to emphasize the medicinal value of human waste. Urine was thought to have many therapeutic values. Some quacks even claimed that by examining urine, they could tell for certain whether a young girl was a virgin or not. In Indian scriptures, there are stories about the power of wrestlers. If a wrestler defecates a lot, he is relatively weak because he cannot digest all that he eats. Conversely, a perfect saint did not need to defecate because he could eat as much as he could digest, or digest all that he ate. The sewerage system developed during the Roman period declined in Europe in the following period. Medieval toilets were located in small chambers called garderobe in the interior of large castles. However, castle toilets were designed to form a projection on the outer wall of the castle. In this way, toilet waste could be easily discouraged. The protruding wall shaft that formed the latrine was supported from below, or it could be nested at the junction of a tower in the wall. Some latrine shafts were short, while others extended almost to the ground. In the latter case, this could have been a dangerous design feature if the castle was besieged. Indeed, besiegers used such a latrine shaft to enter Gaillard Castle on the Seine in France, built by Richard I in 1190 AD. After the siege, A wall was built around the shaft exit to prevent a repeat of this trick. For the evacuation process, a pit was usually dug at the level of the toilets, and the waste would accumulate in these pits. Then, the so-called night workers would clean the waste accumulated in the pits. In fact, here we recognize the dirtiest job in history. The other name of the people we called night workers was gong farmer. They would collect the feces accumulated outside the castle with buckets, take them to a place further away with horse carts, and dump them. Over time, they learned to sell human excrement as fertilizer. Richard the Raker drowned in one such pit while cleaning it in 1325. The rich used wool or hemp to clean themselves after using the toilet, while the poor used grass, stones, sand, or water, depending on the country, weather conditions, or social customs. Newspaper use was also widespread after its invention. In Russia, although not everyone liked it, servants stamped toilet paper with the imperial coat of arms for the Tsar to use. But this was considered sacrilege. The ultimate solution to the problem of cleaning up after the toilet was found in 1857 when Joseph Cayeti invented toilet paper in the USA. In 1596, Queen Elizabeth I's nephew, John Harrington, invented the toilet bowl. Harrington realized that the toilets in the Queen's palace were unhygienic. He designed the toilet bowl as a system where wastewater was collected in a tank and then discharged. Alexander Cummings further developed the technology and created an even better device in 1775. Cummings' design had continuous water in the toilet, thus suppressing odors. There were no separate toilets for men and women until 1739 AD. You can see the first restored women's restroom on the screen, when a restaurant in Paris set up a separate men's toilet and women's toilet at a dance party. It was also during this period that the urinal was introduced for men to use the toilet. Facilities for women were inadequate, and they were taught the virtues of not going to the toilet outside. For a time, though, layered clothing and corsets made it impossible to go to the toilet outside. Now we can talk about this duo that I told you about at the beginning of the video. This thing you see is called a bidet. A bidet is a device found in bathrooms, especially in Western European countries, used for washing the external genitals. The earliest known written reference to the bidet dates from 1710. The bidet originated in France at a time when full-body bathing was practiced once a week. It was invented to clean special areas of the body between regularly scheduled baths. The bidet is native to Europe, but most Americans have never seen a bidet. If they have, it is usually in luxury hotels in the US or Europe. Today, 4 billion people are still without sewers and toilets. Let's take a look at some of the toilets in use today. For example, these toilet cubicles are transparent, but when someone enters, the glass becomes frosted. Japan has strange toilet ideas. A toilet with a garden or aquarium environment is not so ordinary. And here you see the old communal toilets of Japan. As you can see, it's very easy for men to pee. In some countries, it is normal to urinate in public. It's interesting, but India has a toilet museum. Who knows? Maybe one day you will go to the toilet on a lake in Arizona, in the mountains of Washington, in the snowy open air of New Zealand, at the end of a pier in Panama, or the bathroom of a $50,000 a night hotel room. In any case, please don't forget to subscribe and like.